So we've sort of covered the first extremity, your feet. So the next one, hands, obviously very important, and you've got a couple of examples of gloves you want to show us here.
Yeah.
I think the first thing I want to ask you is, how many pairs of gloves do you take on a trip like this?
It's a good question. I mean, often when folk will come on a trip, they'll think of the highest, coldest element of the trip and just think that that's it, that's all they're going to need. So someone might turn up on a trip with just a mitt, and that's going to be great, but that's only going to be great for maybe
a pair,
just one mitt. Put two hands in that, is going to be a bit of an issue. So they turn up with a pair of mitts and think that that's going to do them. But the thing to remember, of course, is that is only going to be for maybe 4 or 5 hours of the whole trip.
Yeah.
So you don't need gloves for your whole trip, but you do certainly need different gloves for different elements of the trip. So those are fantastically warm, those are fantastically dexterous, and there's a sort of a bracket in between, really. Yeah. So in terms of how many pairs, I'd probably be thinking of 3 or 4 pairs.
Right.
And that's going to be at one end, that's probably going to be in the middle, and then there's going to be some thin liner glove, or maybe a leather glove, at the end, which is going to be cheaper and is going to be used for doing things.
Great.
There's a really good test that I have for gloves. So as a mountaineer and instructor, an expedition leader, I'm going to be using carabiners a lot. So a glove is really, really useful. You need to be able to do up and undo a carabiner, obviously, and you need to be able to do that a lot on forever changing ropes around, on tying knots and doing those sort of things. But your hands are definitely going to get cold because your fingers are separated, very obviously. Yep. So that's great. However, if you then have a big mitt on, you've then solved that problem. My hands now are going to get, nice and warm, but there's no way that I can.
You can't even get it.
It's a real problem, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of different things you can do. So a lot of mitts will have liners, so you can have that on, and you can put that on the outside of your jacket.
Anti-drop loop.
And you can be doing that, and then you can take that off, and perhaps you've got a liner glove on. Then you can get your carabiner and you can do the things that you want to be able to do with it. Put that back on.
It's
and
not like you're doing stuff all the time, is it? It's usually just
right.
passing a knot or putting your
That's
Puma on or whatever.
Yeah. And if we think about the sort of trips and the type of climbing we're doing, we're not lead climbing, we're not carrying 2 axes and we're not placing gear on the lead. We're perhaps using, a Jumar that a mitt can go through the middle of on a fixed rope, or we're abseiling using a figure 8 descender or something. So mitts again are good for that. But a range is going to be or holding an ice axe. Yeah. And you can hold, an ice axe pretty effectively with a mitt over the top. So I will always have mitts, and they're really, really warm. But for me, they're probably going to be at the bottom of a rucksack.
I guess having them and not wearing them is better than getting frostbite when you do need them. Yeah,
absolutely.
I guess the other thing as well I've always thought about, I've never done it yet, but if you just had one pair of gloves, even if they are warm enough, if you drop one, you're going down, aren't you? Or you're frostbite.
So
absolutely. You need to have a backup plan, even if it's not for extra warmth, I guess.
Absolutely. And that goes again, if you've got a mitt that's got modular things, if you've got an inner and an outer, well, you could lose that, you could drop that down the mountain, but you've still got the other glove that you could wear, and you could put that in there.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a bit
of
working
together. I guess they dry quicker,
there.
like the boots as well, being separate.
That's right, yeah.
Brilliant.
It's something that's worth mentioning, actually, about summit day on big mountains. And I said about keeping a pair of mitts in the bottom of your rucksack, and I often do as an emergency. But if you want to then put a pair of gloves on, and they are at the bottom of your rucksack, they're going to be cold and they're going to be a long way away. So actually having mitts inside a jacket, staying warm, is actually probably quite a good idea.
Yeah.
And they're keeping you warm, but then if you do need to put them on, you can pull them out and they're right there, ready to go.